I was going to release another video today, but I wanted to speak on this Kanye situation real quick and about what it means to be a disciple. Now, first off, I understand that Kanye is going through a divorce, and if your wife of your 4 kids leaves you and has a public relationship with another celebrity, that's something that can make any of us go crazy and act in strange and bizarre ways. And acting in strange and bizarre ways is exactly what Kanye seems to be doing lately. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. When Kanye first announced that he was a Christian, I instantly became worried because of how sporadic and fleeting a lot of his actions and his decisions were. I figured that we'd only have a few months before he was over it and then just made Christians and Christianity look ridiculous. But I was shocked at how long he stuck with it, because he put out a gospel album. His Jesus is King record was actually surprisingly theologically sound for the most part, and I thought that it could have been a beautiful testament to God's grace in his life. We didn't see hardly any of that erratic behavior that we saw from him prior to that moment. But ever since he's been going through this divorce of Kim, we've been seeing the old Kanye come back. I mean, on his most recent album, and to his credit, he did remove the cussing from the people that were featured on it, and that was just a few months ago, which doesn't even make sense now, because since then, he's now been releasing songs where he's the one that's actually doing the cussing in them, and none of it was edited out. So that just doesn't make sense to me. He also punched a fan like a few weeks back, and he's had a new girlfriend like every couple weeks before his divorce has even been finalized. And right now he's trending on Twitter because yesterday he put out a video for a song where he talks about God, but he says that God saved him from his car crash. He didn't die, so that way he can beat up Kim's new boyfriend. And in the video, there's a cartoon version of him carrying around a severed head, and he kidnaps Kim's new boyfriend and buries him alive with his head sticking out of the soil. Now, people on Twitter are really upset about it, and I'm sure there's probably some deeper and less morbid meaning behind the point of the video that he was trying to create in some artsy way. But the fact that no one else seems to understand the message behind it in that way is the point. It's just not a good look in the public eye. But here's the thing, and again, I know that going through something like losing your family to divorce would be hard on anyone, Christian or not, and can easily bring out the worst in any of us. And even for me, for a long while after I was saved, I lived a life where I was doing all kinds of things that I just shouldn't have been doing. I fell into habits of giving in to my flesh rather than resisting my flesh. And of course, there were those times where I was doing better, and also those times when I would retreat back to my old ways and so on. So I'm not saying any of this from a place of being better than him or something like that. God knows that I've got plenty to work on, and I'm no more deserving of heaven than the worst person on the planet. Some Christians might not agree, but I do believe that it's possible for a person to be saved and to backslide, or to be worldly, or to live in ways that are contrary to their faith. I believe this because Paul talks about people like this, and he writes letters to them in places like 1 Corinthians 3 or 1 Thessalonians 5 and so on. Of course, I have no idea if Kanye is saved or not. That's between him and God. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that by looking at Kanye, he's like a mirror that should help us to look at ourselves. If we call ourselves disciples, then we have to realize that being a disciple is hard work. It's not like salvation where we're saved by the life that Jesus lived. Being a disciple is based on the life that we live. It means that we have to deny ourselves and strive to put God first if we want to consider ourselves to be disciples of Jesus. It means that we need to be striving to deny ourselves and put God first. Now, that doesn't mean perfection, of course, but it does mean that we should be conscious of the effect that our lives and our actions have on how the world sees and understands Christ. If we do want to be his disciples, then we need to not insist on our own way, but to live our lives as living sacrifices. We need to be conscious of the fact that the way that we live our lives is a testament to how much we love God and how much we love others. When we do this, we don't do this as a way to try to gain salvation, of course. Again, the only way that we can have salvation is through God's grace. It's a free and an undeserved gift that we get from him because of the life that he lived. But instead, we do this because he's been so generous with us, and he's given us everything that we need. It's the least that we can do. So I just wanted to share some of those thoughts real quick and remind us all to pray for Kanye and for those like him. And I hope that this encourages all of us to remember to reflect on how we live our lives and realize that in order for us to be disciples, we work on no longer living for ourselves, but for God and his kingdom. But that's just a few of the thoughts I had. Go ahead and leave yours down below. And oh yeah, one more thing. What do you mean?